And lovely. Thanks so much. And just the final thing I want to say then before we dig in. So we kind of revamped our information webinar page on the Athena website. So some of you might have seen that, but really it was just to kind of differentiate the different types of webinars that we have available these days for our existing customers. So there's kind of three kind of groupings now, all webinar types. So one is the customer journey. So again, this is the kind of series that we're kicking off today. And really this is hearing from, real schools that are kind of, in the trenches using the Athena tracker. And hopefully it's most useful to schools who are also kind of trying to roll out the tracker and really kind of get, an idea of best practices and what works well for schools and maybe what doesn't work so well. So that's our customer journey series. The next one is our focus groups. So focus groups is a little bit different in that you can sign up to these to kind of hear about recent developments in the tracker. And also it's a chance for us to kind of work with the Athena tracker team to kind of work with our schools to learn about, kind of just feedback and maybe kind of some features that you think might be useful. So just kind of an area, space where you can give your voice and we can take it on board and, discuss, and then how we might, go about, making that a reality for you. And then the final one then is our refreshers. So the refresher webinars are really useful for if there's new staff in your school, maybe a new teacher has come on board, you can point them towards our refreshers and they'll be scheduled every so often. Again, just to, you can send them to the refreshers and we'll really just be going through a run through of how to use the Athena tracker. So similar what you would have done in your trainings that you received from your schools. And also we'll go through, how to use any new features that we have released to the tracker as well. So, they might be as well relevant, for you if you're kind of not too sure on how to use some new feature that you've seen in the tool. So that's just kind of a little bit about the webinars that we're now kind of, just a little bit of an overhaul on how we do that. Again, just to try and make it most relevant to different, I suppose, user groups that we now have, which is great. So we're going to start off now. So I think I've been talking for too much. We're going to introduce Paula, and maybe we might start off, Paula, just by asking if you can give us maybe a quick overview of yourself and your role at your school, and maybe to kind of kick us off by maybe asking you, why did you decide to go ahead with the Athena tracker?
Okay, hi everybody. So my name is Paula Clinton. I'm a guidance counsellor in Coláiste in Navan, County Meath. At the end of last year, we had a reshuffle of posts, and my post was the attainment was given to me for my AP2. So I suppose over the summer and at the start of September, I did a bit of looking into how we can manage attainment and how we can track attainment. And we have the portal system already up and running in our school, which is a great system. But if anyone is aware of it, it probably works very similar to VS software. All the information is there, but you're pulling it out through different reports, etc., along the way. I also thought about using Excel on OneDrive, but when we kind of looked into that in further detail, it was that you'd honestly need one person full time to maintain the data in it, or you'd need massive cooperation from all your teachers. And I suppose like teachers have enough work on at the minute, you know what I mean? So giving them another piece of work is something that we didn't want to do. So I talked to a few other teachers and guidance counsellors around, and Athena's name came up, and basically we started looking into it, and we realised that it kind of fitted everything we were looking for within the school. It is from a time management point of view and from having all the data basically at our fingertips. So we went from there, we looked about it in September, and we introduced it probably school-wide at the end of September, beginning of October here in Navan.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thanks, Paula. And I suppose just kind of off the back of that, what do you really kind of hope to get out of the tracker? Say, in 12 months' time, kind of what things do you hope you will achieve with it?
Okay, so I suppose I'm looking at this in a phased basis. So I'm currently phase one was introducing it to all the staff, getting over the teething problems, even though there wasn't that many teething problems, but forgotten passwords or access can be given on different levels, and the gearheads had the correct access, etc. along the way. So the first thing was probably the rollout and getting teachers to use it. We have like most schools these days, we've quite a high turnover of staff. So, and as we all kind of know, in the last 2 years with the predicted grades, if staff move on, we didn't have class tests, we didn't have their records of class tests. So phase one was basically getting our teachers to input their class tests, setting up class tests on Athena and using Athena with it. So after Christmas, once we've everybody kind of comfortable with that, we are after Christmas hoping to roll out kind of a phase two of it, which is a more targeted approach to students that are underperforming within certain classes and within certain year groups. Initially, Athena probably has 3 levels. It has, your full access deputy principal. I, as guidance counsellor, I have full access to it as well, which means I have access to everybody in the school. Then we have year heads who have access to all of their year group, and then we have teachers who have access to their class groups. So I got on to Sarah, who is my account manager down there. Thank you, Sarah, and asked Sarah if it was possible for tutors to have access to their tutor group, Quavenori as we call them here. So that's in the process of Athena. So in our phase two will be maybe working with tutors, but most especially year heads, looking at students who are underperforming and targeting those students. As most teachers are aware, there's a lot on year heads at this moment in time. So to be able to share the load out amongst the tutors would probably be the next part of our approach, would be the phase two of our approach. We are still learning about Athena, so my phase 3 and phase 4 will probably be developed out of phase 2, just to let you know, one step at a time.
Absolutely, but I think the approach that you take and just that kind of slow, steady, getting your bearings. First of all, it's great to hear that kind of structure that's in place, because I think that's a big question on schools' minds sometimes, is how do we kind of break this down, for people and make it manageable into their existing workload. So that's really great, Paula. And I suppose, can you tell us a little bit about the kind of the journey or the process of going from maybe initially you and maybe yourself, maybe another person in your school, using the tracker, and to maybe how did that kind of go into, when more staff came on board then using it?
So basically we would have done the training when we first looked into this. I did a training online with you guys, and then we did an initial training for the deputy principal. We did head of SEN team, because he would have access to all students as well, and myself. Then the next training we did was our year heads would have a weekly meeting. So we did a year head training because they have access to more things. And then we did a full rollout to staff during a Crow Park meeting one time, where you guys came online. We all went to our rooms with our tablets or PCs or whatever to learn about it. I am the link person here in the school, which is you do need one link person, possibly two. Do you know what I mean? In case I'm out sick or something like that, it doesn't fall to the deputy principal or whatever. But the rollout was very easy. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very easy. It's very user friendly. I haven't had too many queries back on the actual software from people. What I would have more queries would have been about a student moving a class and how can they be moved into a different class in Athena. And that is just, you pulling the information down and putting it up and stuff, or losing passwords and stuff like that. So the rollout is very easy, to be very honest. It's very user-friendly system, and I haven't had that many queries back on about doing different things with it. Teachers are using it, and as we said, the class test is really, really good for them, and it's good for us then to have a record of all those class tests.
Brilliant. That's great to hear, Paul. And I suppose it is kind of, good for us to hear. It's satisfying that it is user friendly, and obviously because it was such a concern is the user bandwidth, the window in your day, that you have to use it. And obviously we did want to ensure that the learning curve wasn't, that steep. So I suppose just on that, how did you find the kind of learning curve, and maybe some of the intricate features of the tool, the expectation summary, how did you find it was getting kind of ramped up in those features?
Yeah, no, guys, it's 2 clicks of the buttons. You know what I mean? You set it up, you know how to use it. And we've a lot of our year heads using the expectations features at this moment in time, just to identify students who are underperforming. I would use the set targets a lot. So I'd have one-to-one counselling or educational guidance with the students, and I would set the targets with them. like the backup with Athena, like, and I'm not just saying it because I'm on this webinar, is phenomenal. And poor Sarah is my account manager. And just one more question, Sarah. You know, at the start, I probably was on to Sarah a little bit more, you know what I mean? Okay, a lot more. But that has definitely eased off, because there's, I was probably trying to look at every feature on it, you know what I mean? And just to make sure I had the answers for everybody here. But it's very user friendly. The setting the expectations, the information is back at you. What it is I suppose you're looking at a complete picture. We're not looking at information in isolation. Previously in ePortal, as I go back to ePortal, you know, we have CAT scores under one thing. We then have our reports. You know, you go in, you choose summer report, you choose Christmas report, you choose the next report, and that takes time. It's time consuming to get a full picture of the student. With Athena, everything is at your fingertips. You have your grades down on one side from their latest report. And on the right-hand side, then you have their grades for maths for the last 5 years. If you're dealing with Leaving Cert, you've dropped down our English for the last 5 years. Like in teaching, you get a lot of excuses. And I don't mean that in a bad, you know what I mean? Because if you're talking about that they're underperforming, that it's color coded. So green is that they're hitting their targets, red is they're underperforming, and yellow is and they're in line with their progress. And that isn't, that, as we know, is made up from all their years' results and their inputting of their CAT scores. So when I'm looking at a set of results then, and they're all red, and they're telling me, oh, you know, I didn't really engage with online learning last year. I'm like, okay, well, let's go to the result before that. Or let's go and look at your maths down throughout the years. You know, there's no excuse when they're all in red, you know what I mean, as such, for underperforming, for you know what I mean, that they were sick at that time or something had happened to them. And that's how you can kind of catch it. It really is one complete picture. The information is all there, and we're not looking at just one set of grades in isolation as such with it.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's great, Paula. And I suppose you've already given so much kind of, you know, advice and tips, but do you have maybe any advice for schools, like maybe thinking back to how you guys rolled it out, and was there anything maybe you might have done a bit differently, or that worked really well when you were rolling it out?
Probably the one thing I would have done differently would be that while I was aware I got this position at the end of the summer, and I suppose I hit the ground running with it in September. By the time the staff first heard about it, we were doing the training. Do you know what I mean? While we talked about attainment, and we always talk about subject attainment and department attainment, we had never talked about, you know, as in a whole school, how we're going to monitor this. So the first they heard of it was the day that we were actually kicking off the Athena tracking. So the one thing I would say is, like, you want buy-in from everybody. So, you know, introduce it, you know, the link person introduce it at 5 minutes at something someday, and then, you know, give time to digest it, and then introduce the training maybe 2 or 3 weeks later as such along the way. Or, you know, and ask people for suggestions, you know what I mean, along the way. Is there anything else that anyone, you know, might want to contribute to it as such along with it? But that would probably be one of the things I definitely would probably have changed.
Yeah, no, very, very valid. And I'm sure that will resonate with a lot of schools as well on the call, just that kind of communication and buy-in, and getting, you know, making people, I suppose, feel involved. So that's brilliant, Paula. And I suppose a lot of questions, you know, that we get from schools is, you know, do you show the students their results on the tracker? And if so, you know, what kind of reception do you get?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I do, yes. So especially when we're talking about where they want to go next year, career progression and colleges, etc., I show them it. I don't always show their CAT scores, which are featured at the bottom of the page, but that's something that I would always have looked at before I show them the rest of the scores. I do, and it's a wake-up call for some students, you know what I mean, perception, where they think they're at, and then the reality. And as I said, they set their targets. I just use the computer. I make sure I tell them that. And when they're setting their targets, you know, they're very now aware of where they're at and where their levels are at, and the amount of work that's needed for them. And they're very honest as well, because, you know, you'll say, is this an accurate reflection of you? Is this where you think you're at? And you know, they'll be like, no, I can do better, or, you know, I didn't really engage in the last year, or, you know what I mean. And it can be a little bit of a wake-up call for some of them. Do you know what I mean? It really can be that they have the potential that's there. You know, the potential has been shown up throughout the years, and and they're not working to meet what their full expectations of what they can be, and you know what I mean, their full potential.
Yeah, no, that's so true, Paula. And I think, it does kind of trigger that honesty, like you said, that you can't really escape from the data, but also that the data kind of maybe leads to some other, surprise kind of findings, and some other kind of uncovers some other truths maybe that's going on with students. And I suppose kind of similar to that, like, is there any kind of surprise findings, that you found from the tracker, the kind of unintended kind of consequences that since you've got the software, that you kind of learned from it?
For me and for year heads who have access to, I suppose, all the information, the big thing is I'm finding is you get students in and they'd have, they'd be green to maybe third year, and then all of a sudden we're in the reds, that we're underperforming and things. And we know there's a jump from junior cert to fifth year or whatever, but like this year alone, it has opened up 3 conversations about mental health for me. Do you know what I mean? And as the guidance counsellor, we're aware of a lot of the students who come to our door, but what we're not aware of is the ones that don't. And when you see that somebody has been performing and all of a sudden there's a massive drop off, you start with, is everything okay? Are you okay there? Do you know what I mean? And honestly, like, if you'd asked me this question this morning, I would have said it's led to 2 conversations. It has led to another one today already. And that's really important as well, that we're aware of that as a school. But that in my job, reflecting, you know what I mean, I'm not going to be pushing that students, for university, college places. We need to make sure that their mental health is right first. Year heads would find that as well. Year heads would find that if we're all in the red, or our results are all in the red, it can bring up conversations of people being sick at home, or home situations. It's a way to open a door. Do you know what I mean? And again, it is looking at everything, one big whole picture, not things in isolation.
That's great, Paula. And I suppose it brings us back to kind of the overriding purpose of the tool. It is about the students, and if it's helping to kind of, bring out kind of human, factors and human issues, then, all the better. But that's so great to hear. And I suppose the last question then, if you have any kind of parting, words of wisdom for schools that are maybe, starting out with it.
Oh, get it. I'm here to sell. They're paying me. No, guys. I just have to say that the backup support from Athena is phenomenal, and I'm not just saying that. You're always at the end of a phone, and you reply to my emails, even though you probably hate me, but you do. You just feel that the support is there for anybody who's thinking of kind of going, is this too big to take on? It's definitely not. It is not. It's not seamless. I'm not going to lie and say it's perfect, but and that's from my part, from teachers losing passwords and stuff like that. But when you look at attainment, if anyone is from DESH, because I came from a DESH school to here, this information is going to be brilliant for your attainment thing on DESH, for your strand in DESH. But for other schools, it really is just, it's data, it's the information, and it helps you to look at where areas where we can improve, you know what I mean, where you can, where we're under improving as well, underperforming as well. It has been very easy, guys, to be very honest. It has been very easy setting this up, not just with me, but as a whole school-wide thing. It has been very easy, and we, as I said, we are taking it slowly. We are on phase 1. Phase 2 is after Christmas, and we move into the next area of targeting some of the students as well with it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Paula. And like you said, like, it's great, obviously you are in kind of your phase 1, but it's great that you are so hands-on. And also just to point out, that, I suppose the team also love hearing from schools, and they, we do enjoy that collaboration, because you guys are where we get the next idea, and we were talking earlier this morning about, you had some great ideas for new features, and maybe tracking kind of CEO, journeys at the 6 years and stuff. And it's just all that kind of, we kind of thrive on that too. So we do really enjoy. It's not a kind of a one-sided thing.
And you guys have been great. Like, we suggested the tutors to you. Sarah comes back, I'm working on it. You know what I mean? We're working on it. I was saying this today, that just for me, you know what I mean, to put in, maybe some possible college course or something like that, so someone else can open up a conversation with them. Do you know, that way that if their tutor takes it up, or their, you know what I mean, year head takes it up, they have an idea where that student is thinking of going as well. And it is, while it's a lot of data, there's a holistic kind of element to it.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Paula, to hear. So I think you've elicited a lot of questions,
Oh.
which is a good thing.
Hopefully we get to answer them.
So
Right,
we'll just go through some of the chat ones now. So some of them, I think people were having connection issues, but we have one from Kieran.
Maureen,
Yeah,
sorry, just to interrupt you, because I've read all the messages, so I can help you a little
yeah.
bit. Paula, thank you so much. That great run through, I think, and it's so always so great for me to hear the positivity. It means a lot to us all here, in Kerry. So, like, I suppose maybe do you want to just, if there's anyone who has questions who would like, you can turn on your cameras now if you want. If you'd like to, and does anyone want to ask their questions in person first? And once we've gone through them, I'll see which ones are left in the chat. So I think before there's any, sorry, I think someone was just about to go, but just a few of the questions I think are kind of about how, or might be coming from a school not yet using the software at all. And that's probably, you probably need a direct conversation with us about it. Rather than the questions here, if you know what I mean. But go on anyway, sorry, someone was just about to ask a question.
Sorry, yeah, I'm one of those people, we're not using it yet, so I actually put up loads of questions. So I don't know whether you want, will I just get back to you rather than ask you now?
It's probably better off, Barbara, yeah, because I just see a lot of those questions are kind of from an earlier stage, but do you want to ask, maybe pick one of them, I think?
Yeah, so just as regards, Paula, you were talking about like if they're underachieving, and you mentioned that their targets. So are when it comes up in the red, is that based on targets that they've set themselves? Or are you going off CAT scores or anything else like that? Or is it just
so their targets? Now, Emily, you can correct me. The targets are set based on their CAT scores, and then they're adjusted every time that their results go in. Now, there's summer results, the Christmas results, and their mock results go into it. And the targets kind of are fluid, so they move. You know what I mean? If someone the whole time, so they're not set overly realistic for the whole thing. Now, for Leaving Cert, there is one element of it. So basically, you'd have two graphs. One which is their perceived where they should be at. One is where they're at. And then there's an element where we can the student sets their own targets. So there's a third element that comes in on the graph, and they can then set, what they hope to achieve. And, when you're having the conversation with them, it's like, well, this is what you said you're hoping for. This is where our Christmas tests are coming in. And we still have a big gap. You know what I mean? Are we working? Are you, what are we doing even in study? Where are we at with it? There's one thing that I saw, Barbara, one of your questions was teachers with double jobbing. You take all the information down off ePortal, so they don't have to do their summer tests and their Christmas tests. They just put them into ePortal, and then you take the data out of ePortal and upload it to Athena.
Thanks, Paula.
Go for it, Rosemary. Yeah.
Yeah, we're I'm from Clonakilty now. We've been using it for quite a while now, and we're avid fans as well. But something I haven't done, and you've highlighted it there, Paula, is I actually have my other screen open here now with my own one opened. So adding student targets. Did you say that because I'm a guidance counsellor as well? Sorry, I should have introduced myself first. But do you is it you, the guidance counsellor, sits with the students to do the setting the targets, or? Of course,
well, at the moment, yeah, but the year ahead is also kind of doing that as well. But when they're in for their one-to-one educational interview, do you know what I mean? We'd set the targets, and then it automatically calculates the points. You know what I mean? And that kind of can set the tone for the interview. Is like, well, this is where you think you're at. You know what I mean? And now we look at courses kind of around it. So, but I have on the wall here, you can see it behind me, I have the point system, and I just say, look at that. I'm only using the computer. I'm only putting your data. You know what I mean? And it's good for them to realize, because when they set their targets compared to, like, we're just using summer 50-year results because we haven't got our Christmas ones in yet. Sometimes there's 200 points of a gap, and the conversation has to be, how are we going to close this gap? Do you know what I mean? Is this high? are you doing evening study? Are you working part-time? You know what I mean? It just leads to other conversations then from
And
there.
do you use Careers Portal as well, the Reach Plus and
Yes.
Portal? Yeah, so they targets in that as well. But
Sorry, we don't use it as a school. Sorry, we haven't bought the package, the Reach Plus. No, we don't have that. We don't have that.
But this is like, I think this is still good though, because this is actually really matching it up with their performance. So that's
yeah, and it's really good, Rosemary. You know, the way you can see all the years. So, you know, the way you get the excuses of I didn't have a good summer exam, or I didn't, you know what I mean, do something well. You know, you just go back to, okay, well, let's look at Christmas before that. Let's look at this. Like ePortal, if anyone knows it, it's very, you're going in and out the whole time. You nearly have to write down the results to go back again. Whereas everything's literally just on your screen at that moment.
And another question there as well, then, like the cash goes in there, but I'm just recently, Noreen, thank you very much. You, well, you did it for me basically.
Yeah.
The DATS scores, you know, but are they used? This is probably a question maybe for Emily. Are they used in the overall, you know, matching expectations and potential and all that?
Yeah, at the moment, I think we don't have enough DATS data up there from schools in order to use it. So I don't think they're being used yet. As soon as we have enough data, which I think will be soon, because we're getting more and more uploaded all the time. And like, that is one thing we do need to add, like, is more transparency around this is now going in, this is now going in. You know what we have the most data for, which from the start was the Cat 4s, you know, we have huge data on that. And that you know, that, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, because then the other question, then guidance counsellors here might have, might be open to discussing this a bit more as well, is like, I'm kind of, look, every year I'm questioning doing the DATs even, you know, because I think the norms are maybe questionable. So I might have to move on to cash, but I don't know what other people are doing. So,
yeah, but no, sorry, the DATs actually I think do feed into it. Let me check that and come back to you. I should know that off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but I think they're the second most common one, so I think they do feed into it, but I'll make sure for you. But what we are going to do is publish a list of, these are the ones, all the ones that are up there, these are the ones we currently have enough data for, and these are the other ones feeding in. You know, this was something that was started with a very small number of schools and has grown, so that kind of transparency we definitely want to have for you. But it's just to catch up with ourselves with that, really.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the questions here now in the chat. So, Paula, I don't know whether you might be too early in your journey on it for this, but how do you get teachers to use it, and how do you know they are using it? Finding it slow getting teachers to put in their results. I presume by results, Kieran, you mean in-class results. But Paula, do you have any?
Well, yeah, look at guys, that's always part of the process, to be fair. We send around a form, you know, good old Microsoft forms, asking people how they're finding it and if they're using it, and then it's one-to-one conversations, and you need a hand with it, and you know what I mean, and how you're getting on with it, and that's basically what it is. That there is a little bit of follow through on that. And Kieran, I'm going to be honest with you, we still don't have every teacher on board. It's like everything, you're always going to meet a little bit of resistance, but it's that is really our phase one, is trying to get them on that. And Microsoft Forms has been a great help as well. Do you know what I mean? To try and find it, and little email reminders. Just a reminder. Then I'll put up our exam results. You know what I mean, on it. And the teachers are delighted to hear that they don't have to put up the Christmas, or we've just finished Christmas tests, the Christmas tests on it. That the information is just going to be pulled down and gone again.
Thanks, Paula. And then there's just another one from me of, is there a possibility of linking to PASS from GL assessment? And again, PASS, Sarah, you might know better. Is that already up?
It is not already up, but it is on the way.
Yeah. So definitely we can put that up. And like that, again, you know, once we have enough data uploaded from schools, which once we put up a new one happens quite quickly, you know, it can feed into the model as well then. So I think I've gone through all the other chat questions, and like I said, I know a few of them were from prospective schools. So if anyone else has any questions you want to ask.
Yeah, hi, this is a question for Paula. This is Mary in Beaufort College. You remember being there. We're working on this kind of stuff at the moment and just getting our heads around how we're going to use it. There's two questions I just wanted to check in with you about that I just wasn't 100% sure, because I hear how you use it in senior cycle for the educational guidance. But one, you talked about for the seniors and looking at the cats, you know, and what kind of, where they're falling in line with you know, expectations. Are you talking about for seniors the CATS data that they came in first year, or do you redo CAT for senior cycle?
No, it's just their CAT data, like for first year, like, so looking at their quantitative scores, if they're, you know, if they're failing in maths and they're very high quantitative, it's, the question is, why is it that, you know what I mean? Are you not working?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know,
So,
the way
yeah, so
you
you're
have the
not
ability.
redoing them.
No, we're
not
actually
redoing
introducing
them, you're not
Cambridge's
redoing
this year, so we are. So
Okay, yeah.
request. So that's going to go into it all now. So it is.
Okay, and then the other thing, am I right in saying that for the data going in, so if the Christmas or, you know, Easter or summer, if the stuff goes into ePortal, it's very easy to transfer that data straight across into Athena. That's not something teachers have to do on the double. But if they want to include more data, then they add it in themselves. There was just one little bit I wasn't sure about on that.
So guys, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. So basically everybody normally inputs the, you know, the mocks, the Christmas and the summer through ePortal. We then download a file and upload it for Athena. So they don't have to do that. Where this school is trying to get is that class tests. I suppose because of predicted grades and changeover of teachers over the last number of years, you know, if a new teacher comes in and they're asked to do a predictive grade for sixth year and they haven't had them in fifth year and that teacher has gone on. So that's what we're trying to aim to achieve for this year is getting all the exam entry. And look, please God, we won't need it. But as far as I'm aware, the exam data doesn't feed into their overall, it still gives them the green and the red, it's still color coded, but it doesn't feed into their overall, you know what I mean, their charts, do you know what I mean, of where they should be at, etc. That's just for teacher records and school records mainly.
Yep, that's correct, Paula.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to use the software,
okay. Thanks
you know,
so much for that.
Yeah. To use the software, you know, the teacher doesn't need to upload any results, but they can upload in-class results if they want.
Okay.
Additionally,
okay.
Doesn't feed into.
Does that give it more? Is it more accurate though if they do, or just? I'm just thinking of how you get teachers on board to use it, other than overall whole school attainment work.
So it won't feed into the statistical model that's changing their baseline at all. It doesn't do anything like that. But what it does do now is it will get color coded, you know, so you might want to know where their recent in-class tests, where are they in relation to their baseline.
Okay. Yeah, so it's information that informs like the classroom teaching, and then you can use the other side of it for overall attainment work and tracking and like year ahead or guidance type work. So yeah. Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Yeah. And just the other thing on the in-class test, it just means it's all in the one place. And like if you have a change of teacher during the year or something like that, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a port of reference. So a new teacher sets a test, gets the results, then can pop onto this and check to see, is that in line with what would be expected?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, Noreen, I'll hand back to you. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. No problem. So we might just spend the last few minutes, guys, just going over the recent kind of updates, the additions that we have to the tracker. So you might have seen them, some of them already. But again, you know, anything that we kind of add, you know, that's recent, it's a good opportunity again to go to the refresher webinar. So they're kind of the webinars that we will be able to kind of walk you through then, oh, you know, how you use this new feature and, you know, the purpose, and you can ask questions at the refresher webinars. But just as a quick kind of, you know, the highlight reel of the recent updates really is just, you might have seen it as well, that we introduced kind of a new view mode option for guidance counselor and also as a tutor. So, you know, if you are configured you know, in either of those roles now, you will see just an option to kind of switch between, you know, guidance or tutor, or whatever it may be. And I suppose the tutor role is a little bit newer, and really the purpose of that is because we had so much feedback on, you know, not wanting to see the whole kind of first year group. You only want to maybe see a select few students in first year, maybe SEN students or whichever, that you just kind of, it's your kind of job to kind of, you know, monitor those set of students. And really that's kind of our tutor groups functionality was built to address that. So that now is a very new addition to our software. And as well, the guidance counselor mode then has been there a little bit longer. And I suppose just on the tutor view as well, so we do hope to have a kind of a filter then on the homepage, so that you can soon, you'll be able to filter by your tutor groups. So say, you know, you might have kind of 1A or 1B or 1C tutor groups as part of your first year group. And so currently right now, you know, you can just on your homepage select by a whole year group. So very soon, shortly, we will have the ability to then filter by those the groups that you're setting then as a tutor. So that's kind of the one that's going to be hotly anticipated, I'm sure, but that's coming. But the tutor view itself is already there. We also have added, as was mentioned, you know, by Paula and Emily, the in-class test color coding. So again, we did want to differentiate it a little bit from, you know, the kind of standard house exams. So we do color code them, but they're just, you'll notice that maybe shaded a little differently, and they have those kind of diagonal lines just to indicate again that they're not kind of feeding into the statistical model, but, you know, it's still good to get a sense of, okay, well, how did they perform in the test, in the in-class test relative to their potential. So that was added. And we did add some additional the capability to ingest more aptitude tests. So the PPAD-E's and the DATS, so you're now able to ingest those into the tracker. And as Emily said, we will, you know, we're kind of doing reviews all the time to see, you know, when we reach kind of a critical mass of results for those aptitude tests, that then, you know, we can use them in the statistical modeling. But we will kind of let you know when, provide more transparency, I suppose, about that too soon. And as well, just some kind of minor improvements and bug fixes that we're kind of doing all the time. We've recently introduced too. I suppose I might just share my screen to go through what's upcoming. So it'll probably be a little bit easier to give you some of that eye candy to say, you know, what's coming down the line. So hopefully you can all see my screen there. But this really was a big one that, you know, schools were looking for an overall tracking page. And so I think it's especially will be relevant, you know, in the DESH school setting where, you know, you do have to provide numbers and particular counts of, you know, kind of attainment each year. So just to kind of walk you through, so this is just kind of a mock-up of what we hope to do, but we can see it'll be an overall tracking page, and really you can follow a particular year group over time. So you can see here, you know, I'm looking at a 5th year group. We can see, you know, their attainment from first year all the way up to 5th year. And we have an ability to set a target. But just to kind of quickly, you know, help you understand what's going on here. So we have 4 different zones. And so they're colored kind of zone 1 in red, zone 4 green. And so I suppose the idea here is that we can then track over time, you know, how many people are in zone 1, which refers to where the group of students where 100% of their results are below expectation. So I suppose, again, coming from the modeling, we know that, you know, when they're kind of in the orange, they're below potential. So when that is happening for all their subjects, what's the percentage, I suppose, of the student group, you know, that's fitting that criteria. So they'd be really kind of the zone 1, the ones that we obviously want to minimize the percentage in that group. And so you can see here as an example, over time, we obviously want our target to kind of that to go down. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the zone 4s. So really where, you know, going towards 0% of those, that percentage of the student group, you know, they're below or they're above expectation. Sorry, so 0% of their results are below expectation. So they're doing really, really well. So obviously we want that to grow over time, and you just have the ability to kind of set your target line there as well. So hopefully that is as well very, very relevant to DESH schools, but I'm sure it will be very useful, you know, for all schools to track students. It's still kind of tracking, you know, them against their own potential, but it's doing so kind of on a, you know, on the basis that you can see it very clearly over time and what percentage of the student group as well, you know, is in which zone. So that's just something, one page that's coming down the line. The second one is subject ranking. So again, we get a lot of requests for that. And again, very clearly you can see it at a high level, it just will give us the ability to, based on the students' aptitude tests, we can make almost recommendations for which subjects, I suppose maybe more suitable for them. So just using kind of on a numbering basis here. So again, this is just a mock-up, but gives you a feel for the type of recommendations maybe that the tracker could provide. Again, just to complement your own expertise, in maybe as a guidance counselor or whichever. But yeah, it has been one feature that's been requested a lot. So that's our subject rankings page. And finally, so we have a new kind of a design as well for the homepage now to be not only filtered in terms of subject, but by exam. So you can see here, we're looking at the Christmas exam. And usually, when you log into your homepage, you kind of see it by year group and by subject. Over time, in this kind of mode, in the exam kind of filter mode, you will see your student list, and you can kind of glimpse then, how the particular student has performed, in their subjects over, for a particular exam. So you can see all the subjects here are going across the top for the third year Christmas exam. And again, just some averages. So again, that's something, it's just a different view, telling just a little bit of a different story. The subject view will still be accessible as well from the homepage. So those are probably kind of the three big things that we wanted to share. That again, they're kind of in the pipes. The Ills are working at them, but yeah, we just said we would share them here. So I'll stop the share, and I suppose one last request that we might have for everyone, if it's okay, we might get a group photo just to kind of commemorate our first ever customer journey webinar. So if people are comfortable to turn on your camera, we might just take a little screenshot of everyone, if that's okay. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's completely fine. You can leave your camera off too. But it would just be great for us just to again, just to remember the special moment, and we might share it on social media as well. Again, if that's okay by you. Right, so I'll just give everyone a chance to get their cameras ready. Brilliant. Okay. And if everyone's okay, I'll take my screenshot now. Super. Great. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate that. And I suppose we're just kind of at time. So again, I just want to bring this back to Paula. She's kind of the star of the show, and just to thank her so much for her time, and her great insights and her real kind of candor as well today, in bringing all that she's kind of learned, and is still to learn, and with us. But thank you so much, Paula, and we've kind of really appreciate the collaboration.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Megan.
Brilliant. And thanks to everyone for joining too. So as we mentioned at the start, we will, share back the recording with you, and as well, we'll be in touch if there's any bits to get your permission, if you do feature in the recording. So just to thank you all for your time today.
I'll just jump in before we finish, Noreen. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Big thank you to Noreen. Noreen has only worked with us since the end of August. So she's already an absolute pro. Not an easy thing to do. So well done, Noreen, and Sarah, who was obviously mentioned a lot as the star account manager. So thank you both so much. Like Noreen mentioned at the start, we've 3 new ways we've separated this. We're very conscious that with the schools, you have very limited time. This is supposed to save time for you to be able to do all those amazing things. So with that in mind, we have the focus groups now. If you have strong feelings about the way you think the software can be improved, that's where you go with them. We're going to try to restrict them to very small numbers. So we really want to hear your ideas on the new features and any other ideas you have on it. The sky is the limit. And then the refreshers are for, for example, Noreen mentioning the tutor groups there, and you're thinking, how do I do that? Attend one of the refresher sessions, or, if you need your staff to attend one of them, they can do that. And obviously all of our trainings are still there also. And then finally, this new customer journey that we've started, which Paula did a brilliant job of starting, and I'm so grateful to you, Paula. So with that, any volunteers, please get in touch. John Cronin, I see you there. You'd be a great volunteer. But no, I am conscious that, you know, we're always asking, you know, we're a new business still, we're just 4 years in business, and we're always saying, can we feedback, can we testimonials, can we this and that? So volunteers is what I'm looking for. Is that a yes, John? I think I see nodding.
Emily, yeah, just to say, I dropped in the meeting because I was just curious to see how guidance counsellors are interacting. Our guidance counsellors have been working with this particular package, and we've been working with you for the best part, I think 4 years? Yeah. And I know some of you are, and this wasn't scripted or anything like that, but I have to say, in terms of Athena, in terms of the work we do in tracking, profile, engaging with students, it's second to none. And I know, I'm just kind of very mindful, a lot of you seem to be using, strangely I've forgotten about it, ePortal, and I know VSware, the one we use, are doing upgrades as well. But as a package that connects directly, particularly with senior students, the work we do a lot around senior students, it's excellent. And I love the way your presenter was talking about stages and rolling it out. There's no rush to roll out the entire suite of programs. One of the pieces of work we're doing at the moment is looking at subject performance. So we can capture all the students and how they perform, say, in English or maths. And you know, when you get to that place as a subject department where you're looking to see who would be most appropriate for higher level maths or ordinary level maths, there's some really, really good data there to pull out of it. And I love the piece too, and it's absolutely right what your guest speaker said. It's not just data. It does inform particularly your piece around student well-being and, you know, where they're at. And you know, it's another piece of information that informed Paula. I thought her point was really, really well made. It's not just data, it's information as well. And there's a hell of a difference between the two. But if you were thinking of Athena, certainly, I know a few people have rang me over the time and they're more than happy to endorse Emily's product there, but it is really constantly improving along the way. So I have to say that. As I said in the video, which a friend of mine sent me, when it comes to education, Athena, get it. Okay, I'll say that again, Emily.
Thanks, John. I knew you wouldn't let me down.
That wasn't scripted or anything like that. Well done with all the work that you're doing. Okay, so
thank you.
There you go. I noticed I'm the only male here. There was another male there. What's that all about? What? Good stuff.
Okay, so we'll finish up. Look, you know, I know we've gone over time a bit, but thank you all for joining, and that's where we're going from here. And we really appreciate all the time you've put into learning this new product and improving it. And thanks again to Paula, Noreen, and Sarah especially.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Talk soon. Talk to you soon, Paula.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.